All right, welcome everyone to Kerberos Media News. Here with us, we have Jerry co-hosting again for the first Fridays. Welcome, Jerry.
Good morning, Shane.
Good morning. So we actually have some
This-
breaking news, and we
this-
rarely,
yeah, I don't know that it's been a good morning. I don't know that it's been a good week.
no, I don't think
Sadly.
so. But we have breaking news, and we never have breaking news. So I'm really, um, so this article, this happened. It was yesterday, I think, right?
Overnight.
With overnight, this happened overnight, everyone. So last night, in Japan, the former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was shot and he was killed about 5 hours after the shooting. Now, in Japan, it's really hard to get a gun. Um, we believe that he wasn't the intended target and it was someone else, but this doesn't usually happen. This is more of a US thing than a Japan thing. There's not a lot of violence in Japan, so there's a lot to unpack here. Do you want to go into more detail?
Yeah, well, I knew before you shared this news with me this morning when I got up. I mean, I kind of saw it overnight, but he had survived, but it didn't happen after he went to the hospital. But what I knew ahead of this was that guns are very, 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 very hard to come by in Japan. So it kind of surprised me that his assassin was able to get his hands on a weapon. Now, this comes from Bloomberg, and if you'd like, I can also share the screen so we've got
Mhm.
uh, something to look at while I read the article. Who shot Shinzo Abe and why? Everything we know so far. And this comes from Alec Milson at Bloomberg. In a country where gun violence is rare, the murder of former Japanese leader Shinzo Abe is raising big questions about the shooter and his motive. Here's what we know based on media reports and official statements. Abe had just begun a campaign speech in the western city of Nara on Friday when he was shot from behind from a distance of about 3 meters, 10 feet. There's video online. We don't have that, and I don't know that necessarily know that we want to show that because depending on where you're sharing your stream, Shane, you might
Mhm.
you might get censored and suspended.
Oh,
And
that's
I'll go
unfortunate.
into that after this story in regard to our other story. But yeah, I mean, if you want to see the sad details, that news video is online. It was caught while it happened. Shot from a distance of about 3 meters, 10 feet. 2 gunshots were heard. Moments later, security personnel tackled a man to the floor. He was wearing a gray t-shirt, khaki trousers, and a face mask. The gunman has been identified as Tetsuya Yamagami, a 41-year-old member of the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force, Japan's Navy, who was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. NHK reported that he worked for the force from 2002 to 2005. The arrested man told police he was quote unquote frustrated
Mhm.
with Abe and had planned to kill him, broadcaster NHK reported, citing police. But he claimed not to have attacked the former prime minister over his political beliefs. The Manichi newspaper said he was aiming at a religious leader who wasn't attending the rally, adding to the confusion. NHK reported that the gun, now this is the crazy part, had been homemade, and a close-up shot of the
Mhm.
weapon on the floor appeared to show it taped together. I didn't know. Well, I've heard of people 3D printing weapons in plastic to like get past security checkpoints. If this was a homemade gun, maybe it was 3D printed, but apparently some kind of a crude weapon that he was able to put together since fire. Okay, thank you, Jimmy. Hey, Jimmy. The gun looked like 2 pipes that were taped together. Investigators
Mhm.
are currently at the suspect's home, preparing to enter his apartment, according to local broadcaster FNN. NHK reported that explosives were also found at the house. Now, this was reported at 10:35 a.m. UTC. Is that I
Mhm.
don't know what time zone that means. UTC. I know
I think that's England, but I'm not 100% sure.
maybe it's UK time zone. Time, yeah, possibly. But yeah, that's what came to us from Bloomberg as far as those details.
So this is a very sad story. Whenever someone dies, it's sad. But there's not a lot of gun violence in Japan. So when I saw this article, I was actually kind of shocked. And I saw this early this morning. I didn't see it last night. I saw this maybe at 6 o'clock my time, 6 a.m. Eastern this morning. And I looked, and I'm a former prime minister shot, and this is not something that we usually cover on Kerberos or on this news show. We usually cover a lot more political and economic issues, but this is just too big for us to ignore. A former world leader shot. We had to cover it.
Well, it's
really big deal.
it caps off a week of gun violence across the United States, and the entire world looks at the United States as being insane for our lax gun laws, which we are. And then but then this happens in another country too. I mean, it's interesting because to me, here's a country who was pretty serious about their gun control laws, and this idiot decided to figure out how to do it himself anyway. I have another screen to share here. If you want to pop this up, this came from Twitter, which is another interesting detail. Politicians in Japan often travel with fairly light security details. The fatal shooting of Shinzo Abe from close range raises questions about protection for high-profile figures in a country where political violence and gun crimes are extremely rare. Well, that would explain the light security. But still, country with gun laws or not, that is surprising to me that there was a very light security detail. That almost it makes you want to grab your. I got to make a tinfoil hat to put on when we do these shows to grab and just put on. Wow, light security.
No, but that
wouldn't you have full beefier security, whether or not there's gun laws there or not? I mean, someone could have lunged at him with a blade or something.
Could you picture now, whether we like them or let's say former President Bush, just a random example, going to an event and speaking and having one security guard? Could you see that happening?
I guarantee you, when any president goes to Japan to speak, or any other country, they don't got light security.
No.
Anyway,
so why would the prime minister or former prime minister have light security? It doesn't make any sense. I understand there's not a big amount of it, but this is the former prime minister. Yeah. There's got to be a lot of enemies there who didn't like what he did or who disagreed with him. Yeah. Political enemies who may or may not do anything, but how do you not protect the former prime minister?
Priorities? I don't know. Looking the other way. Look, I'm not going to speculate and put on do the conspiracy theories, but it is certainly it's certainly curious. Every one of these assassination mass shooter stories, once you start diving into the details of what wasn't done, become very, very curious, as we'll really examine in another story we're going to get into in a few minutes.
Yeah, it's rare, but 2 mayors have had assassination attempts on them there too. I remember that. I think in Japan, getting mad at all. I think it was in Tokyo last year, 2020, that there was a mayor assassination attempt. Like the former wanted a peace agreement, help up their blessing, everything. Yeah, that's right. We forget that earlier in the last 2 years, there were other assassination attempts on other world leaders or local leaders in Japan. I think a lot of us forget that, and you would think that would prompt them to increase security on the former prime minister, but I guess not.
Yeah, had I had more, I just realized, had I had more prep time this early, I would have talked quickly with my colleague over at Hardlands Media, Kit Cabello, because he lived in Japan for some time, and he probably maybe he has some insights. I'll have to ask him later into culture with security and I don't know, protecting politicians, or just obviously this is clearly like very, very unexpected and surprising to everyone in Japan, simply by virtue of the fact that they've got such strong they don't have guns available easily there. But this lack of security, it's weird, man. Everything's weird. Shane, I think did you know on Tuesday they turned on the Hadron Collider again? In the CERN, they turned on the Hadron Collider, which opens up black holes for scientists to study. The last time they did this was 10 years ago, I think. And I think that we're on the last time. I think that opened a rip in time, and that's the reality we're now living in. That's my theory. The fact that they turned it on again this past Tuesday is just making things worse.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, seems the audience likes my background.
I don't have.
Um,
I didn't have the comments up. Hey everybody, who's with us today? Lana Dell hates the clock. Jimmy, hey Jimmy. Lana Dell, Dolores Peters. I recognize some names. There's Warren Extra Bulla. Hey everybody, good morning.
yeah.
So Jimmy
Good morning.
shares. Maybe we should share this. Jimmy shares. The former prime minister wanted to end the peace agreement and pump up the military. Plus, he never did anything about Fukushima. Interesting. It's rare. Actually, let's. There's some good comments here from Jimmy. She's done some homework. It is rare, but 2 mayors have had assassination attempts on them there too. People are getting mad at all leaders across the world. Yeah, I mean, I hear that. Doesn't mean that we need to start. They need. I mean, there are better ways to clearly demonstrate our disapproval. Although, and I'm not condoning what happened. At a certain point, I always quote this when we're doing stories like this about our elected leaders, that JFK himself said when peaceful protest, I'm paraphrasing now. Okay, I probably got the quote wrong, but the essence was when peaceful protest is ignored, violent revolution is inevitable. And I think we're at the point worldwide where the common people are sick and tired of not being heard by their elected representatives, especially here in America regarding our gun laws and easy access to guns, as you'll hear all the ugly, gross details in the story we're going to do about the Highland Park shooter shortly after we move on to this one.
Yep.
Yeah, Jimmy, the whole world is sick and tired of their leaders not doing what they need to do to represent the people. They're representing elite interests. They're representing, let's shift the focus over here to America, where I call it the corporate states of America. It's not the United States of America, the corporate states of America, because all our elected representatives are doing is bowing down to and doing the dirty work of lobbyists, Wall Street, the pharmaceutical cartel, as I like to call them, or let's say, insurance companies, the banking industry. They're not doing it even when the Democrats have a majority. And look what they're doing now. They're fundraising over the reversal of Roe v. Wade. And I was sharing with my colleague Art on the Tuesday Hard Lens Media Show. Let's wait and see how quickly the Democrats start fundraising off of what happened in Highland Park and more gun violence. They're going to go, it's more money so we can solve gun violence. Bitch, you assholes have had the majority. How many times where you haven't done dipshit about gun control and this epidemic that's going on?
Yeah. No, it's insane. But I do want to say one thing about America. And, I might sound like a lunatic for saying this. Jerry, you've seen Star Wars, right?
Have I seen Star Wars? I live Star Wars. Of course I've seen Star Wars. Yeah, that's what the originals are my favorites.
Well, I was going to go to something in the prequels. In the Senate, in the prequels, the corporations have actual senators in the Senate, if you remember that. So
the Trade Federation.
Not far off. The Trade Federation, the Techno Union, and the banking clan.
Well, George Lucas was taking from real life. I mean, the original Star Wars, in '77, the Rebels Against the Empire, he said was very, and the sense of an emperor was very much inspired by his disillusionment with the Nixon administration, the imperial presidency, the Vietnam War, and the rebels in Vietnam rising up against the empire that was occupying that country, which I think is kind of cool. I never knew that at the time. Now, when he went into the prequels and started bringing in the banking clans and the corporations stuff, it's like, yeah, as a grown-up, I get that, but then you can't say that these are just children's movies. But I digress. That's a whole.
But my point is going to be the way we're going. Soon, we're going to have the senator from Amazon and senator from Chase Bank and the senator from here making motions in the Senate.
I have to show you the banner on my Facebook page where I am currently suspended for another, I think, 17 hours because I dared to share the Tuesday night Chicago Corner show on live. I dared to live stream it on FaceCrack. And they decided, I guess it was just the show itself that I did where Kira was hosting was just too sensitive, or their AI decided that we were glorifying violence. Who knows what the fuck they were thinking? But here, anyway, I had posted something earlier this week on my Facebook profile that speaks specifically to what we're talking about, and in a moment I will have it to share here on the screen. Give me a second. Here it is. Mm-hmm. This is what should be our new flag. And share the screen. Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, it's gone.
Here we go. That's where we are right now. That's what our flag should look like.
Oh, are those all
the corporate states of America? I mean, those are like many of the corporations that influence our elected represent. I always have to stop myself from saying leaders because there's no leadership.
The senator from McDonald's.
It's not leadership. It's blowjobs to the corporations and Wall Street and everybody else who's got money to line these crooked, fucking corrupt politicians' pockets. Am I allowed to swear here?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I mean, I don't like to swear, but I just tend to punctuate it because it's just my outrage. Just the hate flows through me.
Here's an interesting comment.
Yeah.
Jesus,
yeah.
I think firearms training should be mandatory and federally funded, but people's needs need to be met first, or you'll probably see gun deaths fired. Isn't it a crazy idea to train people with guns? Isn't that kind of ridiculous?
Can I go on my rant, Shane?
Yes.
This little canker sore in Highland Park had threatened to commit suicide. The police visited him. He had a collection of knives. The police took them away.
Oh, sword and a dagger too.
He threatened to kill his whole family, and they didn't put him in. They didn't put him in an institution. So, to Jesus's point, the kid wasn't trained. He had a history of psychiatric issues, and naturally, his father decided to sponsor to get him a FOID card. Jesus, to your point, yes, firearms training should be mandatory. Background checks should be mandatory. I personally don't believe that any weapon beyond a rifle or a handgun that are explicitly for the use of home protection or hunting should be allowed to anybody, period. You do not need AR-15s. You're going to tell me that these people who want to run around with their AR-15s and hunt, they're tearing up their meat with these semi-automatic weapons, okay? These are military-grade weapons. Every mass shooter in the United States has used an AR-15, okay? You don't need those guns. Second of all, speaking of second of all, let's go to the Second Amendment, okay? The right to bear arms was specific to also maintaining a well-regulated militia. Everybody running around with their Second Amendment affords me guns, misses that. They're not forming their well-regulated militias. And let's just err on that. It's even Oreo showing his butt that he's so disgusted about lack of gun control in this country. Let's say, okay, Second Amendment affords you the right to a gun. And I would argue just a rifle or a handgun, but be that as it may, doesn't give you the right to ammunition. I've been saying we need to regulate. I was saying on Tuesday's Hardlands Media Show, we should start hashtag regulate ammunition. And then some knuckleheads in the live chat at Hardlands Media, oh, well, people like this asshole in Japan. Well, people could still make ammunition in their basements. Great. Regulate gunpowder. If everybody wants to run around with their guns, they're all tough. Look at me. I got my gun. I got my AR-15. I got whatever. Great. You're a tough guy. But you know what? You got to pass all these other strict regulations and background checks to get ammunition, or show that you have a need for ammunition, or have your ammunition rationed or you can only buy it when you go to the shooting range or when you go to a hunting preserve. That's when you can get your ammunition. So I know that there are lawyers out there who will be able to twist themselves into pretzels arguing other points to pass laws that maybe aren't constitutionally protected. And since I don't see ammunition or gunpowder in the Second Amendment, and if people would say, well, that's assumed because they go along with weapons, well, that rocket launchers are arms, so are bazookas, but people don't have a right to bazookas, or if you're going to identify arms so broadly, let's start fine-tuning and really understand what this is all about, or how you can possibly shift the focus on what is giving people the ability with their guns, since we're not doing the background checks, Jesus, and we're not doing the training, to prevent them from spraying down classrooms full of kids or people at a 4th of July parade who are just looking so forward to getting out of the house. 4th of July, stuck inside for 2 years.
Jimmy has a question, but I think the answer is he was military. Before, right? The shooter. The one she's talking about, the one who shot the prime minister, he was military.
Yeah, so he's probably trained, Jimmy. I mean, maybe he's probably a good shot with what he was able to put together.
And then Lana makes an interesting point here. Minnesota, if you apply for a concealed carry, the class is mandatory, and Jesse Ventura put that into place. That's accurate. Jesse Ventura put a lot of interesting gun regulations into place. He was pro-gun, but he understood certain other things that go along with that.
A lot of interesting details in the live chat. Everybody are sharing. Thank you. Since this broke overnight, and I didn't know these details. Warren, Extra Bullish, shares Abe was pretty right-wing, so I'm sure that didn't sit well with people, but why assassinate him now instead of while he was in office? Doesn't make sense. Interesting question.
Maybe it's easier. Maybe the prime minister has more security than the former prime minister. I don't know.
Or maybe because the security was so lax with the former prime minister and him wanting to make a statement. Lana Dell hates to talk. No one outside the military needs an AR-15. Yep, I agree.
Yeah, agree.
That's just like every gun nut that argues that they have that right. I would say we need to start prescribing them Viagra. Is my thought, because I think that comes down to sometimes.
Jerry, have you seen the recent string of Jesse Ventura interviews where they've been asking him about all kinds of things? I don't know if you've seen any of them. So
I've Jesse now and then, but I haven't seen anything recently, unfortunately.
So in his recent interview, it was either with the Vanguard or Jen Perlman. He's been doing a tour. So he's been doing lots of interviews. I've seen all of them. I love Jesse, but in one of his interviews, they asked him his opinions on guns because he, as the mayor and governor when he was in Minnesota was, pro gun. So they said, "What do you think about guns?" And one of the things he said was, "Yeah, people should be able to own whatever they." Now, I don't necessarily agree or disagree. I think it's an interesting point that I want to see what you think.
Right. I mean, I think Jesse made a lot of good points that are at least opening up the conversations to compromise and possibilities and discussing solutions. So go ahead.
So his thing is, you can own whatever guns. I don't necessarily agree with this one. Whatever guns you want on your own property, you cannot take them off of your property. When you do take them off of your property, his proposal is you need to take them apart. You cannot travel with, let's say, a rifle to go hunting that is put together. You have to take that apart. And when you get to your hunting range, you can put that rifle back together. You put ammunition, then you can use it, and you go home. You take the rifle apart again, and then you bring it back home.
I love Ventura, but I disagree with. I would say yes with limits with a rifle or a handgun. I
agree with the limit. I don't necessarily agree with any gun.
Well, look, I'm not a gun fan. People would be like, if you're anti-AR-15, are you anti-gun? I don't like guns, but if you take them away, if you take weapons of protection, which could be a handgun or a rifle for home protection away from people, okay, you do leave them vulnerable to criminals who are going to get their hands on weapons illegally to rob a home, and maybe criminals might also get their hands. It's going to be harder for a criminal to get their hands on a semi-automatic weapon, right?
Semi-automatic is not necessary. And then I'm also fine personally with historic. If you collect Civil War stuff and you have a musket, okay, I really don't care. I'm not really bothered by that. That's not really. It's not.
You're not going to be able to barricade yourself in a classroom and kill children, or go on a rooftop and act like you think you're a Lee Harvey Oswald type, and then dress up like a woman to blend into the crowd. That's like fucking like suspense thriller movie shit, man. There was some great movies out of Chicago. There was one called The Package with Gene Hackman and not Lee Harvey Oswald, with Gene Hackman and Tommy Lee Jones, where Tommy Lee Jones was an assassin, and they were setting up a patsy from a perch like an Oswald to take out the Russian president who was visiting Chicago for a peace conference. But I was thinking of that movie and how like all the stuff that you see in movies about how, you know, the assassin is planning to disappear, blend into a crowd. It was just like this kid, for all of his mental illnesses, had some things firing to be able to decide how he was going to get out. That's not a completely lunatic. That's calculated. Okay, that's calculated. That's premeditated, and I really do hope the feds come in and charge this kid with domestic terrorism, because he's now terrorized an entire nation of people from going to crowded events. I'm not saying that to be funny. Everybody I talked to,
yeah. Do we have a video queued up? I think we do.
Well, let's talk about, let's shift into the Highland Park shooter. I mean, obviously we've been talking about this for some time, shifting gears with gun violence.
Right.
Yeah, we have a video. So let me pull it up here. Give me a second. All right. Yeah, why don't you pull my screen up? That's what she said. Okay. Here we go. All right.
And in relation, just so people understand, in relation to when did this happen, just so for people to know, for context.
So the Highland Park shooting, for those who tuned in late, happened Monday, July 4th in Highland Park, Illinois. It was a 4th of July parade in a very affluent neighborhood on the north side of Chicago. And to put it in perspective, Highland Park is essentially the stand-in town for every John Hughes movie. It's where Ferris Bueller's Day Off took place, 16 Candles, all of those teen comedies that John Hughes produced and directed back in the 80s are set in this neighborhood. So you can kind of, if you've seen those movies, you kind of get a sense of what life is like there. I don't want to say disconnected, but very much in a bubble, being a very affluent white suburb. This kind of stuff is not supposed to happen. So, as we know, this troubled kid, Bobby Cremo, got his hands on weapons after I shared earlier all of his red flags, along with his social media presence, which we'll get in a moment. But so this video, this interview with Cremo's uncle was released the night. I think it was the night of July 4th, or it was the next day. Actually, let me look at July 4th. This is before they had even gotten the kid in custody. So I'm going to play the video. This is his uncle.
Our Dane Placco just spoke with Cremo's uncle. Let's listen into that.
Paul, thanks for talking to us. What did you want to say to the people who were hurt, the families of the people that were killed?
I just want to say I'm deeply, deeply sorry for everyone that lost their lives and got injured. From the bottom of my heart, I'm heartbroken, and my heart is shattered to hear this, and I can't even believe it. And I just want to express my deeply sorry and my condolences to everybody. Me and my brother were very well known in Ravinia, Highland Park, and we have a good character. Everybody.
They're very well known and they have very good character. Who gives a fuck?
Loves us. And
everybody loves them.
And this is just breaks my heart to even.
No one's going to love them now with all these other details that came out.
Hear about all this.
Tell us about your nephew, Bobby the Third. Have there been any signs of trouble, any warning signs recently?
There's been no warning signs. As I saw him yesterday evening, and I went home. I said hi to him. And then when I came back downstairs, I said bye. He said bye, and that was it. That was normal standards of all time. And I see nothing that would trigger him for doing this at all.
Had he ever said anything to you, or said anything to a family member that might have concerned people?
No, there's no concerns that I've seen at all.
And the weapon? Do you have any idea where he acquired the weapon?
I'm not sure. No.
You don't.
No. Okay. I'm not really involved with it. Like. I mean, we're like, we just say hi and bye. And that's it.
were living in the
Yeah,
same
yeah, yeah.
home.
We live together. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
explain that arrangement. It was your dad's home, right?
Yeah, yes.
At one time,
Yes.
your dad passed away, and then you, your brother, and Bobby the third were living there.
Yes.
And
And he has own apartment in the back, and I had my own upstairs bedroom, and it was separate the whole time.
Yeah.
So I seldom see him at times. When I do see him, I mean, he's actually, I mean, he has helped me around the house at times, and and there's no signs of trouble. I saw no signs of trouble, and if I did see signs, I would say something, but there's no signs of trouble.
What was he doing with his life? He was 22. Was he going to school? Was he working?
I think he was out of he did go to college, and he was like a YouTube rapper that I know, but I never even preview his videos at all.
Yeah.
I just know that he's on YouTube.
So he was trying to do rapping and
Yeah, he's a rapper, and then he was also an artist. He was a good artist a while back.
Was he professional? Was he getting
Oh no! Yeah, he drew good.
Did he have a job
Never read. He worked from maybe 2 years ago.
a couple of years ago?
Yeah,
But he was unemployed.
right.
And no mental problems or psychological problems in the past?
Not that I know. No. He's a real quiet kid. He keeps everything to himself, and he doesn't express himself out. So he just like sits down on his computer, and there's no like interaction between me and him.
And having known him your entire life and learning this.
All right, so I think we've had enough of him.
Yeah. He's
So,
something.
no-
There's
no-
interaction.
No signs, Shane. No signs. Let me take you to another video where it's demonstrated that there were no signs when he's talking about the kid's social media presence. Let's bring this one up. Can we do it so we're both on the side without us being lost? Okay.
There we go.
All right, it's
What
loading.
should happen is there's something called a preservation letter, and we have the ability in law enforcement
Sorry, it's buffering. Hang on a second.
to take the account down, don't take the account down, or lock the account.
One of the biggest questions in the aftermath of the shooting, who knew about the suspect's disturbing social media posts?
Ever brought to the attention of police.
Tia Ewan joins us at the live desk with more on that. Tia.
Well, it doesn't sound like his social media pages were brought to the attention of police, but this is what we do know. A YouTube channel that featured the Highland Park suspected shooter showed an animated school shooting and the parade route. YouTube has since pulled the page.
I need to just do it. It is my destiny. Everything has led up to this. Nothing can stop me, not even myself. Is there such thing as free will? Or has this been planned out?
This is one of the disturbing videos.
He's literally telling everybody what's going inside of his messed up head. He had this YouTube channel for 2 years, Shane. And by the way, the day this happened, my friend and colleague over at Chicago Corner, Ed Heller, I found the YouTube channel, and Ed said someone's already archived the videos from the channel because they're going to pull the YouTube channel, and they did. And people can argue, well, they pulled the YouTube channel because it was upsetting, and they want to preserve evidence, and blah blah blah. I'm like, they wanted to pull his social media so people could see how the authorities didn't see the red flags, along with the fact the Illinois State Police issued him his FOID card, despite the fact that there were 2 incidents the Highland Park Police reported to the Illinois State Police regarding the incidents that they went through. Now, interestingly enough, well, let me finish this. I'm sorry. I'm like really into this story. So
Video showing 21-year-old Robert E. Cremo III posted on YouTube 8 months ago with thousands of views. It shows an animated character at times shooting another character.
If the public sees something that is concerning online with anybody, they should notify the social media network it's posted on. They should notify local law enforcement.
you know what? They do. We do. I've done it. Nothing's happened.
And that's when we get involved and we conduct an investigation.
Chris Covelli with the Lake County Major Crimes Task Force says Cremo was planning the crime for weeks, and detectives are still looking at online posts to see if the suspected shooter had a motive, but says no one contacted them about Cremo's online activity.
If we don't know about it,
his Facebook page had 500 followers for the past several years when he was promoting his rap career and putting these videos there. Now, I want to also share with everybody, we live streamed Chicago Corner Tuesday reporting on all this. And you know what happened to me for live streaming reporting on this story? Chicago Corner cannot live stream from Facebook for 59 days. Why? Multiple posts from the last year didn't follow our standards. Specifically, in this case, actually, let me pull up that screen grab. It was because they claimed that this story here. Let me pull up that graphic real quickly. And there's a point here. I'm not, all about, oh, look what happened now. Us feel bad for us, but it goes against their community standards. Let me pull up the message. We have these standards to prevent and disrupt offline harm. And what was the other specific here? Here it is. This is what they claimed the Chicago Corner Lives. While they let this guy have a Facebook presence with 500 followers, we live stream coverage of the story. And apparently us covering what happened is our standards on dangerous individuals and organizations. We don't allow symbols, praise, or support of dangerous individuals or organizations on Facebook. We define dangerous as things like terrorist activity, organized hate or violence, mass or serial murder, human trafficking, criminal or hurtful activity. We were reporting on this, talking about it. Instantly, Facebook pulled us down, but this asshole had 2 years and enough time to amass 500 followers on his Facebook profile. So I'm restricted on Facebook now for another, I think, 10 hours, since that was a 3-day suspension for me for posting it. Chicago Corner can no longer live stream on Facebook for another, I guess, 56 days now. We're down to 3 days. Anyway, let's go back to this video.
2 months. Ridiculous.
Yeah, 2 months.
It's hard for us to investigate.
This is a screen grab from a video on the now deleted YouTube video titled Robert Crimo Archive Footage, file XM058.
Okay, so
10 months ago
this
was posted in a
this is the creepiest video that I saw, because it's literally him casing Highland Park. And when you listen to the audio, this was online with the audio. The audio of the emergency alert was not added. That was his adding it. When you see someone going through the streets of Highland Park with the here,
appears to show 17 seconds of the Highland Park 4th of July parade route captured on a camera attached to a moving car. An emergency siren could be heard over the video. So if you see something like this, what do? You can contact the social media site, letting them know it goes against guidelines and standards. And if it's really graphic, you should call police. Rich Wistocki, a cybercrime expert, says police can track down a suspect through social media.
We take the information. There's something called exigent circumstance. If death or great bodily harm is about to happen or is going to happen now, we can get the information.
I think we all know that. So here now is the kid's family's lawyer, because you know what? The family knows they're in deep shit, and they decided to hire an attorney to start doing the rounds with the press.
Well, I would hope there wouldn't be any charges so far from all of the
against the family members.
From law enforcement authorities. Speaking with the parents, is they didn't do anything wrong. They're just as shocked by this turn of events as everyone else is.
Why did they need to hire an attorney?
I think that, well, first of all, I've known these folks for going on 30 years now. Till very recently, I was a resident of the community, raised my kids there.
So I'm going to share with you what a good member of the community Crimo's dad is. Oreo, please, baby, get down. Hang on. There you go. His dad is doubling down. The father of Highland Park parade shooter says he does not regret signing a consent form for his, I'm going to add, mentally ill son to apply for gun ownership after he threatened to kill his entire family. Father of Highland Park parade shooter does not regret helping his son. This father of the year award, right? You want to talk about someone completely disconnected with reality and what he raised in his own home and essentially enabled. It's right there. Let's really quickly go back to the lawyer that the family's now hired before everybody comes after their assets in civil forfeiture.
Grew up there. And my role is, one, to advise them on the law and also to help them through this process and to understand the process. A lot of law enforcement is trying to the media is approaching them. So just to assist them.
Do you know Bobby Crimo?
I know the parents. and I've met the son. I met the son many years ago. I know the daughter. I know.
Shane, I'm going to jump ahead in the video because he does a lot of glad handing with the family. But this is a good reporter. She asks him some very pointed questions that, as I know, he's a lawyer. He's really a liar.
I'm on a 24-hour psychiatric watch or something like that.
Wait.
And it was perfect. Able to get a FOID card, and that was resolved. Then to alarm lawyer.
And from the house to that, 19 years old at the time. Reported.
There we go. I want to get to the reporter's question.
It's just a horrific tragedy all the way around.
Oh yeah,
for everybody.
For that family, so much.
There were red flags, Mr. Greenberg, as you know, and police have reported. The state police have responded today with more information about that December 29th purchase of a firearm. Bobby Cremo is just 19 years old at the time and applied for the FOID card. The application was sponsored by his father. Given the fact that 2 months prior to that, police were called to the house, he was suicidal and he had threatened to kill his own family. Knives were taken from the house. What does your client have to say about approving and sponsoring an application for a firearm 2 months later?
Well, that's assuming that the police account of the events is accurate, and pardon my skepticism, but I've been a defense.
I'm no fan of corrupt criminal cops, but look at what the guy's. I hope they're paying him well.
Lawyer,
trying to say, although the Illinois State Police shouldn't have given out the FOID card based on his background, but his father also ran for mayor, so he's politically connected. And curiously, the time that this incident happened with the knives and they didn't want to institutionalize him is when his father was running for mayor. You don't want that out in the media.
Long time.
Yeah, I'm going to pause it. I just want to add something here. So it wasn't only, and I was reading the article, and this kid had a collection of knives. He had a dagger, and he had a sword. Like that.
Okay, so I just look at the kid's drive. Okay, so you're the Illinois State Police, right? You're supposed to have access to what is a background check, psychiatric records, any law enforcement records, right? Then you see the kid's picture. Yeah, let's pass him through. It's cool. His dad's co-sponsoring him. His dad's a well-respected member in the affluent Highland Park community who ran for mayor. See what I'm saying here? This gets you everywhere, and this is the heart of like so much of the problems in our country. It's like the rich and the well-connected get what the fuck they want at the expense and collateral damage of everybody else. Beyond mass shootings, I'm talking about our whole society is built on this house of cards.
Well, everybody knows everybody in this little white affluent town. His father ran for mayor. The current mayor was his scout leader, the kid. When he was a kid, she was like the scout leader or something for his thing. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody's well connected, at least to the more wealthy individuals.
Oh, this is cool in the live chat. Jimmy shares, kids' families full of shit. Yeah, you know what, Jimmy? Yeah. When I saw Uncle on Monday, being the empath that I am, I felt slightly bad for him. And in hindsight, the uncle doesn't know what the hell's going on, like the parents did. But Jimmy shares, kids' family is full of shit. I studied criminal psychology, serial and mass shooters. Family can tell ahead of time. I love my nephew, but he has traits like these. And if he does something, I saw the signs. Yeah. And I also was sharing with my friend Art on the Hardline Show Tuesday. I've got 6 nephews. And luckily, my siblings are super parents. And I check out what my nephews are doing on social media just as a proud uncle. If I saw anything that suggested something is very, very questionable of concern and my siblings didn't know about it, I would bring it to their attention because I'm an involved uncle and I love my nephews as well as my niece. So this uncle who went on, either he was covering or he really was just completely disconnected from activities, that his brother, who's the father of this kid, was ignoring. Let me go on with the reporter's question to the lawyer, though.
To them 2 weeks after they took the knives. So the police couldn't have been too alarmed by that incident.
Why wasn't the family alarmed? Now he's putting it out only on the police. Both are guilty. Both are complicit.
There was a family dispute. I think his younger brother may have called the police, or his mother may have called the police. I'm not sure. And the police came, and the situation was resolved. I think the bigger issue here is why does a 20-year-old or 21-year-old kid, why is he able to get a FOID card and then purchase a military assault weapon? I think that's the
bigger question is, why did his fucking father sponsor it? Dipshit.
Question that we should be asking ourselves, not whether the family should have sponsored him to get a FOID card.
Like that. They're completely wiping their hands of any responsibility. Well, yeah, law enforcement was completely foolish and short-sighted not to deny this, but I guess that means the family isn't complicit or has any responsibility in any of it. Yeah, I love Jimmy's comment. This family worked for generations with the namesake just for this dumbass kid to end it. Cremo the third to Cremo the last.
Awful.
Was it not a red flag that he threatened to kill his own family and was suicidal enough to the point that his family called police?
Well, as I said, they've disputed that he was.
This lawyer does. I mean, this reporter does not let this lawyer off with any easy questions.
Suicidal, and that they ever claimed he was suicidal, and they also dispute that he ever threatened to kill everyone. My guess is that if he had threatened to kill everyone, that the police would have taken some action, removed him from the home, placed him on a 24-hour psychiatric watch or something like that. So I'm not quite sure that's really what happened, but that's not really important to the discussion now that we're having.
Really?
Are your clients aware of the other firearms that Bobby had purchased?
They were aware that their son had lawfully purchased firearms, yeah.
And that's the problem. The lawful availability of these kinds of weapons, semi-automatic AR-15s, everything beyond rifles and handguns that, at most should be allowed for, I think, home protection or self-protection. But protection, not, AR-15 doesn't protect you. AR-15 is designed to go kill as many people as you can without necessarily having to aim carefully.
Yes.
Were they concerned about his mental health, and was he receiving help?
Well, I don't want to get into specifics of medical care, but I can tell you that the family had no reason to be concerned.
Had they seen the social media videos and what he had been posting online?
We have one more.
They did not follow.
No reason to be concerned. Look at this guy's
some of those
statement.
Videos, and I can see where people would find those videos disturbing. We look back at these things after they happen, and we see things and we say,
I'm sorry, Shane, do you want me to stop it? I mean, I think we got the gist. I just, for those who can't find this came from YouTube's News Nation channel. Yeah, gaslighter. Lana Del hates the clock. Yep, gaslighter.
Now we have one more story that's covered in ads. How wonderful.
Is this
I
Siobhan?
can't see anything.
Siobhan
story. Doesn't this look great?
Of course. Let me open it from my end. Let me. I know that you shared it with me in the.
Yes.
The now, the last story I want to go to is Siobhan. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me open it on this end. Hang on. Let me see.
And he's right. He was in state prison. Sure. So everybody remembers George Floyd.
All right. It's up on my end.
It feels like so long ago, but yeah. So
do you want me to play the video? That's just with it. Yeah.
Oh, is there a video?
Oh, it looks like it, but it's not coming through. Weird. Oh wow. Oh, you have to register for free to continue. All right, so give me. I'm going to see if I can bring the article up without. So give me a second here. Okay, hang on, guys.
Oh, the video is not what we thought it was. I'm looking at the video on my phone. It has nothing.
Is it a commercial? Yeah, they do that a lot on those websites. They decide that they're going to put other stuff there.
About. Yeah, it's a video about Putin in Russia.
Okay. So I'm trying to
Very irrelevant.
stand by, guys.
What happened with George Floyd? That was the knee on the neck by Officer Derek Chauvin of George Floyd.
Can we say murderer Derek Chauvin now? I think yes, that's what we need to call him.
Yes. It's murderer Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd with his knee on his neck while his partners stood by and watched him do it.
Yeah.
Because they can't arrest him. He's a fellow officer. But
got it.
Because what happens what happens to officers who arrest their fellow officers for violence, they get drummed out of the force for that because you shouldn't be held accountable for crimes if you're a police officer. I'm sure we agree on that, right?
Yeah, I've got the screen up on my end without all that nonsense on the top. If you want to switch me over.
Oh, is that on yours? Okay.
Yeah. There we go.
21 years.
21 years. He'll get out on probation. You know that's going to happen. They did that to this cockroach here in Chicago who shot I can't even keep track. Laquan McDonald, Van Dyke, 16 shots in a cover-up. Remember when Rahm Fuckface Emanuel, our former mayor, decided to cover up the police video before his election to prevent showing the fact that the police department was covering up the fact that Laquan McDonald was gunned down with 16 shots, was of no danger to police, and they just didn't want that to get out. Well, Van Dyke is out. He served limited amount of time, and he's out on probation. The same thing's going to happen to this asswipe, Derek Chauvin. Look at this. He's associate. This is who our, you know what, police departments, I understand. I remember reading one story. They don't want applicants with high IQs. They want people that will just obey orders and act like jackbooted SS officers. Because there was a story I read several years ago about a police department applicant who said he was rebuffed because his IQ test was too high. Like, because you don't want smart officers and critical thinkers who might make judgment calls instead of running around like yellow bellies with a gun and a badge deciding, I can do this. I don't care who's got video on me. I'm not accountable. My police union is going to protect me. I can get away with this.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read the article? Can you read it on that end, or should I read from it?
You can read from it. Let's go quick. Okay. We have 2 minutes.
Oh, well, are we able to go over a couple minutes? You got another show coming on.
We can go over to like 5 minutes. I just think
okay. Chauvin sentenced to 21 years in federal prison for murder of George Floyd. Scroll down here. The sentence means Chauvin, 46, will leave a state prison where he has been kept in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day for the past 15 months and be allowed to move to a federal prison. Judge Paul Magnuson told Chauvin during the civil rights violation sentencing that you put your knee on another person's neck until they deceased. Put your knee on another person's neck until they're deceased is wrong. You think? Especially if you have the privilege of serving as a law enforcement officer? And for that, you must be substantially punished. Prosecutors and Mr. Floyd's family had sought the maximum 25 years on the grounds that Chauvin's actions were cold-blooded and needless. The defense had asked for 20 years, saying Chauvin had accepted responsibility, Shane. He accepted responsibility for what he did. Do you know what other priors were in this guy's jacket before the Floyd incident, the Floyd murder? Mr. Floyd, 46, died on 25 May 2020 after Chauvin pinned him to the ground with his knee on his neck for 9 minutes, 29 seconds in Minneapolis. Mr. Floyd had been accused of passing, oh my God, this was public enemy number one, Shane. Do you know what he did? Remember what he did? Yeah. He was accused of passing a counterfeit $20 bill at a convenience store. His killings protests across the United States, a reckoning over police brutality and racism, and galvanized the Black Lives Matter movement. Chauvin was found guilty of second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter after a trial in April 2021 and sentenced to 22.5 years in a state prison in June that year. During Thursday's sentencing...
Let's just take a look at what Amber said here.
Okay.
Before we Continue. I wish there would have been more conversation over the fact that Floyd and Chauvin knew each other personally from previous encounters at a nightclub. Chauvin targeted him. Yeah.
Amberly, I did read all that, and I would say, yeah, there should have been more conversation. I think that there was conversation on social media in regards to this trial and the civil rights charges. I don't know if it. They didn't. I don't know that they talked about it in the trial. I didn't follow that closely to know. But sometimes in trials, it's like, yeah, that's a very, very relevant bit of information. But the video also tells the story. Maybe it was irrelevant to what we saw in video, and whether he knew him or not. I don't want to say it was irrelevant, but whether Chauvin knew each other or not, the video clearly shows what Chauvin did, and it was like an open and shut cases to the point that he choked the guy out and killed him without any second thoughts on any kind of accountability for it. But yeah, I remember reading that story, Amberly. Absolutely. It was very, very curious. Okay, so Jimmy says, this intrigued me. He got 20 years for violating Floyd's human rights. Can we do this with all police now? Can this be precedent? I hope people cite it, Jimmy. Yeah. During Thursday's sentencing, Chauvin made a brief statement in which he addressed Mr. Floyd's children. Oh, my God. I just want to say that I wish them all the best in their life and have excellent guidance in becoming great adults. Are you doing the news or am I doing the news? The court also heard victim impact statements from members of Mr. Floyd's family. I'm not paying enough attention to him, I think is what it is. What? All right. The court also heard victims' impact statements from members of Mr. Floyd's family, including his brother Philonaise Floyd and girlfriend Courtney Ross. Another statement came from John Pope, who sued the city of Minneapolis over an incident in 2017 when he was struck with a flashlight and held in a chokehold by Chauvin. This guy did it all the time. I don't know that anymore. Let's give some respect to George Floyd. Chauvin pled guilty to using excessive force on Mr. Pope, then aged 14 as part of that plea deal. See, Chauvin did this, and, they didn't say, you know what? Give us your badge, give us your gun. You're out. You're done. I hope he takes this time to think about, until he killed somebody, I hope he takes this time to think about what he could have done differently and what he did to others, Mr. Pope said. Chauvin's mother, Carolyn Paulenti, also made a statement criticizing misinformation that her son was a racist. Everyone in Minnesota needs to heal and realize that all lives matter, no matter what there you go. All lives matter, dismissing the fact that Black lives have not mattered for how many generations? That is racist. Sorry. I'm so tired of the all lives matter or the blue lives matter bullshit. Every life matters, Ms. Paulenti said. Yes, especially Black lives. Defense attorney Eric Nelson said there was much more to Chauvin than his actions on 25 May 2020, adding he was a staunch family man, who I'm sure also, I'm going to speculate, probably beat his children. Prosecutor Leanne Bell had argued that Chauvin's actions showed he had intentionally killed Mr. Floyd. He wasn't a rookie. He'd been a police officer for years. He knew what his training was. He knew what he was doing was wrong, and he did it anyway. Judge Magnuson sentenced Chauvin to 252 months, minus 7 months for time served. He added Chauvin had absolutely destroyed the lives of 3 other young officers who have also been criminally prosecuted over Mr. Floyd's death. He ruined their lives. How did he ruin their lives? They stood around and did nothing. They could have intervened. Oh, those poor officers, those poor young officers, they were bullied and they're just standing around and doing nothing. Fuck these people, Shane. The former Minneapolis police officers, Tu Tao, J. Alexander Kyung, and Thomas Lane were convicted in February of federal civil rights charges in Floyd's killing. Judge Magnuson has not set sentencing dates for them. Chauvin will also have to pay restitution. I don't know how he's going to do that from behind bars. Maybe they can give Floyd's family his pension. No filming or photographs were allowed inside the federal courthouse in St. Paul. In entering his guilty plea, Chauvin, for the first time, admitted that he kept his knee on Floyd's neck, even as the black man's pleaded, "I can't breathe," and then became unresponsive, resulting in Mr. Floyd's death. Chauvin, who is white, admitted he willfully deprived Mr. Floyd of his right to be free from unreasonable seizure, including unreasonable force by a police officer during the May 2020 arrest. Since he was found guilty of murder, Chauvin has been kept isolated from other inmates within the high-security administrative control unit at Minnesota State Prison, Oak Park Heights. I hope he has a fun time in federal prison. I hope he gets the justice that we couldn't give him in this courtroom. Anyway, I filibustered here. Anything you want to add, Shane? It's your show. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's all. So our stories today: the death of a former prime minister in Japan, the Highland Park shooting, and the highlight of the evening: Chauvin getting 21 years in jail.
Good points in the chat before we close out. Chauvin's mother never even apologized in her final statement during the trial for her son's actions. She's a big part of why he acts like he does, as is the father of the Highland Park shooter. Chauvin's wife divorced him right after this blew up. Story is they transferred all his assets to her name. You do the math. And Jimmy says if he has to pay back restitution, the court will take half of any money he receives while in prison, whether it's from the outside or earned in prison. Good show, Shane. Sad show. I'm becoming more and more nihilistic every day. The American existential crisis continues.
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for tuning in today. Great show. What happened to Oreo?
He just decided here. You want to say goodnight? Look, you dominated the show for the rest of the time. Why don't you get up, say goodnight to Shane, say goodbye to Shane, say goodbye to all the nice people in the chat. Now he doesn't want to be friendly. Come on, give him a little wave. Go on. Bye, everybody. Have a good day. Stay safe. Take care of each other. Be safe. Don't buy guns.
Okay.
All right, guys. Shane, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely.